We pick up in Psalm 81 and verse 5, which speaks of God's intervention as his testimony. In the balance of this psalm, the psalmist reminds Israel of their obligation to praise God, particularly by remembering his mighty deeds in delivering the fledgling nation out of Egyptian slavery and through the wilderness in verse 5 through 7. Verses 8 through 10 are a reminder that they were to worship the true God and him alone. He alone was their deliverer and provider. Verses 11 through 13 reveals God's displeasure with their adulteries, so much so that he removed his hand and gave them up to their own desires, allowing Israel to stumble in her own foolishness. In verses 13 to the end of the psalm, God tells them what he would have done for them had they remained faithful and obedient to his commands. The psalm is just as much a special message to the church of today as it is a reminder of our obligation to submit to his principles that form the law. Verse 5 of 81 reads, "He established it for a testimony in Joseph when he went throughout the land of Egypt." I heard a language that I did not know. The psalmist refers to the nation as Joseph because in Egypt the segregated group would have been known and spoken of as Joseph's family. And indeed, Joseph was the patriarch of these people. The passage probably alludes to the Passover, which is a testimony and a feast of remembrance of God's deliverance and his redemption of the people from Egyptian bondage. Everything about it was intended to testify to all ages and all people about the glory of the Lord in their deliverance of his chosen nation from slavery, as well as the church from the slavery of sin. The psalmist writes a spiritual impression when he pens, "I heard a language that I did not know." How can it be understood that the Lord should hear a language that he did not understand, seeing that he knows all things and no form of speech is incomprehensible to him? Therefore, the answer must be a hyperbole. The Spirit must be referring to the idea that God of the Israelites was never properly adopted by the Egyptians. Throughout the land of Egypt, neither adored or praised by the Egyptian tongue. Their adoration was professed only to their own idols, gods, and was like a foreign language to the Creator. This may be similar to Jesus' words toward the wicked when he said, "I never knew you. Depart from me, you workers of iniquity." Of course he knew them. He simply would not recognize their existence.